today. But what I was going to start out with was some things I want to bring up here if I can. Man, this is not getting off to a good start. Sorry, y'all. What I was going to show you was on this screen right here, if I can get it to come up, about this situation of looking at family and making such a focus on the family. So I'm going to try and bring this plane back down to the ground today. If you can't hear me, y'all yell, okay? Always reboot before going live. That's good advice there, Courtney. So I did some research on all kinds of murder investigations around the country and found a few things that we got to keep in mind. When the family members become the focus, and that's all we're focusing on, says proximity, relationship, circumstances, or apparent motive make the spouse or relative, they become the focus. And that becomes our narrative. And it seems like that's the main narrative right now. When you look online, it's more than 50% of the people are focused on the family. Some high FBI people, some wonderful investigators, and a lot of people believe that it's family. And I understand, I understand because I'm still hanging in there, but I'm keeping it's like I'm hanging on to a cliff. I'm keeping my one arm though swinging out here trying to catch hold of something that might also be it too. That might save me from falling. Once this thing takes hold, and I've seen it before, and I've said that before on other videos and stuff like that. Once it takes hold, where it's nothing but the family, it's really hard to get it off of that. And then what happens if it's not? So then you got the potential for new evidence to break out, and all of a sudden it's not the family anymore, but it was before. But it's really not. It's kind of like Courtney tonight on her show I was watching, and she was going over the notes again, and she was basically about to drive herself crazy, I think, trying to figure those notes out and all. And I understand that's such a confusing thing. That's why we have to go back to what can we prove? Even those notes that are exceptionally confusing for sure. What do they prove? See, we can't go to court with those notes and prove anything. That's the one problem. So then the next thing you got having is this family member is cleared, the strongest, different person is brought up. So I'm going to show you some of these. One of the worst ones. Now I actually have a list of about 50, but I just picked out, I think it's 4 here. One was a guy named Michael Morton. One was a guy named Mike, because I'm just going to be talking to the air. One was a guy named Michael Morton. He was convicted. He was but after that, DNA testing came back and implicated another man. Evidence concerning Morton's young son also supported an intruder theory. Well, who really did it? Investigators, investigators centered on the case on the surviving husband after Christina was murdered by the family at home. All right, so then they had DNA, but he spent 25 years in prison. He was convicted and sent to prison. Spent 25 years in prison. And another guy named Mark Allen Norwood really did it, and he had other convictions of other murders. So that was a situation where they stuck on him. Now I have some details about that, but I don't know if we'll get into all that. Another one is this husband father thing. David Cam. Cam was the surviving husband and father and discovered his family murdered at home. Investigators built the case around him. What happened? DNA and other forensic evidence placed another man at the scene, undermining the prosecution's theory against Cam. DNA connected a guy named Botany to the crime scene. Cam was acquitted in his third trial in 2013. The guy Bonnie, I'm sorry. The guy Bonnie was convicted later and is in prison now. But can you imagine going through 3 trials to prove that you're innocent? Another one. Here's a son-in-law. Imagine that. The son-in-law, Clarence Elkins. A surviving child initially identified Elkins as resembling the attacker, making the family connection central to the prosecution. DNA excluded Elkins. Subsequent investigations also undermined the original eyewitness identification. Yeah, we want eyewitnesses. But you know, eyewitnesses are some of your worst witnesses sometimes. That's why you're always looking for hard evidence other than eyewitnesses. All right, so how did he get cleared? DNA renewed the investigation, shifted the case away from Elkins and toward another perpetrator. Elkins' conviction was overturned and he was exonerated. So he was convicted, sent to prison, and he had to wait for DNA to clear him. One more here, I just tried to make a point about being stuck on this narrative, and there is some really big time investigators that are totally stuck on this narrative. And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I ain't saying it is true either. I'm saying you got to prove it. So what do we have to prove it? That's what we're going to go over here in a little bit. All right, then this next one here is a guy named. All right, this guy here was the husband, Jeff Oberholzer. Circumstantial evidence connected Jeff to the victims, including his business card being found in Annie Shani's possession. Later, forensic testing excluded him and generated evidence point to another. Modern forensic testing and genetic genealogy identified Phillips decades later. He was arrested and ultimately convicted. It's not good to get the wrong person. That's all I got to say. It's not good. And there's serious. The central lesson. This is Courtney's favorite. This is from Chat GBT, I think. It first demonstrates that the original theory was wrong. Listen, folks, the original theory, which I totally understand it, the inner circle, the last person's there, and all that stuff makes it hard to leave that circle. I understand that. But I'm trying to land this plane back down on the ground a little bit here and say we have to keep our eyes open. And I certainly, it doesn't matter what we do out here. We're a bunch of people just observing from the outside, but the investigators have to keep their eyes open. They have to keep their eyes open to other possibilities, not just these, not just what's Jen, I imagine is who this is. What that is the problem with pigeonholing a perp. Yeah, yeah. I think we are just going to let's put this one up here. I think that's the problem. I think we're just going off on a public information for a theory. I hope law enforcement has a lot more and can prove. Absolutely, that's part of my what I'm saying. Now, listen, it's fun to get out here and do all the hey Patriots pride. How y'all doing? It's fun to get out here and theorize all this stuff, but we need to be careful because we can ruin people's lives too and all this. And Annie and Tommaso, no matter what happens now, their lives are already ruined. First off, she lost her mother, and second off, being accused by everybody uh, is not helpful in their life. That's for sure. So now here, let's look. I'm gonna look at a couple of notes. All right. The question for you is, and for all of us, are we married to a narrative? You know, I tell you, I'm gonna probably lose some people here tonight, and I'm gonna upset some people. But I've been known to do that in my life. You know, when you look at this stuff, you can't be looking through uh, these glasses that only sees what you want it to see. And then I think there's a in our human spirit, in our human selves, in our flesh, okay, in our flesh, is this desire to say, see, I told you so. I told you it was going to be that way. I told you that. You know what happens when husband and wives all the time when you have issues going on, one or the other says, well, I told you so. That's kind of the way we can get in this true crime arena is I told you so. I knew I was right. You know what? It doesn't matter if I'm right. It doesn't matter if Thornbridge is right. It doesn't matter if Courtney's right. It doesn't matter if Chris McDonough's right. It don't matter. It matters if the police are right. And I'm hoping that they are, are going in the right direction. Now you can go off in the wrong direction, and you got to correct your course. And if they, I don't know where they're going. They haven't told us, and they don't have to tell us anything in reality. You know, Happy Friday to everyone. Inner strength. I like that. Inner strength. We all need some inner strength. Uh, let's see here. You as a police officer have looked at it from all angles. On the other hand, armchair detectives like myself pick what we think probably happened. Yeah, that's right. And I totally understand that. And we kind of get married to that thing. That's my point. Don't get so wedded to it, because it really doesn't matter what we think anyway. It matters what the police think. All right. So what do we have to prove? What do we have now to prove that Annie and Tommaso did it, or anybody in the family did it? What do we have to prove that? They were the last ones at the scene. They were with her the night before, um, and all that. Now, the rest of it is speculation. We have them at the house. We have them inside the house for I don't know how long, half hour, hour, or something before the police get there, and all kinds of speculation about what happened while they were in there. That's mere speculation. We don't know what happened. Okay. They made a phone call, 911 call, which we don't have. So we're working blinded here a lot of times, and it's fun to do that, for us to do all that. But at the same time, we're working in a dangerous area. So what do we have? That's what we have. Now, other things we have, y'all statistics. There you go. You're right. The statistics, and I'm statistic that way. When I watch football and we get in a situation where the coach, I say punt, because the statistics are you punt in those situations. You don't go for it on fourth and 20 at the 50-yard line. You don't go for it. You punt. Okay, so I totally believe that you have to go with the statistics. I'm not going away from those statistics. I'm just telling you, I'm hanging on to that. But everything so far has been that everything so far has been that proven that the other way. All of what we're hanging on to is speculation. Now the sheriff's office and the FBI, they have facts that they're working from. Facts. They have all their phones. They have all their data. They have everything in their house. They did a search warrant on they searched their house. They got all the data off all their devices in their house. They got their car, had it for 40 something days. They did whatever they were going to do there. And if it was going to be obvious, they would have arrested them already. So we have to consider the fact that it might not be them. It might be a stranger. Heaven forbid. Look at what just happened in Tucson just 2 days ago, and they had some hoodlums come in and shoot a police cadet or rookie or whatever he was, trainee or something, and his girlfriend, wife, live in, whatever. So, and they're trying to find that guy. So these people are out there, and whoever did this might be still out there. I know nobody wants to hear what I'm saying. Nobody wants to hear. Everybody wants to say, no, 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 it's family. It's family. But it might not be. It might not be. And everybody needs to keep their eyes open for what it might be. And we need to be looking for the guy on the front porch. That's the only evidence we have. is that guy, the guy on the front porch. All right. The reason I wonder if it's an elimination is that I see no other motive. They didn't collect the ransom. The perp couldn't pretend, uh, the perps could have pretended Nancy was alive. If it was an essay, why Nancy? Well, I agree with that. But here's the thing: when they took them out, I don't deny that it's possibly an elimination thing either. Okay, I don't deny that, but proving it, proving it is a different thing. Whoever the elimination was set up, and who is it that set the elimination up? Let's say you'll say you're saying that it's Tommaso and Annie. Well, how did they do it? How did they do it? They did it through telephones. They did it through internet. They did it through some kind of communication avenue. That's how they did it. Well, the FBI has all that information now, and they ought to be able to track that down. You know, on the Kohlberger case, I mean, they found so much information on his phone, on his computers, and everything else before and after the crime, and all. It was loaded. So was that guy smarter than Annie and Tommaso? And yet he couldn't hide it all. He tried to delete it off his phone, tried to delete some of it off his computers and everything else, and it didn't work. So I don't know. Let me go over something else here. All right. So what do we have? We have the ability through all those devices to track where Annie and Tommaso were on the 31st and on the 1st that evening, and then on to the 1st. I'm sure they tracked their phones, and I'm sure they tracked their car. They got all the telemetry out of their car. They got all the stuff off of their local Wi-Fi in their house and all that. So that's what they have. That's what the FBI has to prove that they didn't do it. Now I know they can have a burner phone and all that stuff. Here's what you got to try to do. Is despite this is just old Glen talking here, old boomer, okay? Because I've seen this stuff go in the wrong direction before. You got to try to not fit your theory. You know, as I heard Chris McDonough once time say, fit a watermelon through a keyhole. You really can't do that. You have to keep all your options open, especially if you're wanting to be right, right? I don't care about being right. I really don't. I don't care about being right. I'm just participating here because I want to keep it alive for Nancy, because I know if you don't keep this case alive, it was going to. That's a good question. Here's one here. How did Alec Murdoch avoid capture for 400 days? That's a good question. Very good question. But he did, didn't he? Yeah, very good question. Do you know the answer? The answer is in the end, they got him. They did get him. Of course, he's fixing to go back to trial again because of the mess ups. Yeah, they got good lawyers. That's right. Well, listen, what do you think you're going to have on this one? First off, that's another reason why they got to be. Listen, I've said all along, if you go back and listen to a number of my other videos, you go back and listen to a number of my other videos, I said, and I'll say it in no uncertain terms right here, you must, big word, must eliminate Annie and Tommaso. You must eliminate them. I don't believe they've been eliminated. Maybe they did it, maybe they didn't, but I don't think they've been eliminated. Yes, right, Jackie, process of elimination. But how do you do elimination? You start with them. and I do not believe they've been started with. You can't go outside the circle until you finished inside the circle. And they have never finished inside the circle. I don't think. No, I don't know. I'm not on the inside. All I'm doing is guessing from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I saw, and all that, that they were never interviewed properly, number one. They might have all their devices and they might be able to basically prove they didn't do it because of that. They've never really been interviewed. And what I call an interview, is an interview, and then it gets a little more intense, and they have to be separated. You can't let them, like Courtney was going through, she was going on tonight. It's all fine and good. It's all good. How, the way they probably interviewed them was that, one or the other is hearing what's going on the outside of the other room and that kind of stuff. And that's probably what did happen. They're probably right there in the house, and they asked the two of them all the stuff, and they're interviewing them right there. They had to get them away from the house, and they had to get them somewhere else. Let's see what inner strength says. If law enforcement use specific information to clear those two, that should be something they could release. That's right, absolutely right. If they're so worried about them being harassed, is to tell us the information they clear. Absolutely right. That's I've been saying that forever. They need to eliminate them and then tell us how they eliminated them. And that includes, now, a lot of people say, well, I was going to say that includes giving them a polygraph. Some people don't want to do that and all this kind of stuff, but I think it's very useful. And you got some of the best polygraph examiners around in the FBI. You can't totally go on a polygraph, but if you've got everything else, and everything else is eliminating them. And then your interviews basically have eliminated them. In other words, there's nothing in their interviews that leads you to believe that there's something wrong here. Not just speculation, not just, well, I believe, not just these theories that we have, but an interview, all right, that says, you don't, so what do? You bring out the polygraph, and now you try to figure out, are they lying to you or not? That is what needs to be done. That's what should have been done. And that is what I've been screaming about for a long time. You must eliminate them. And then when you eliminate them, you tell everybody exactly. I go back to this case I've worked on the Rogers family all the time because there's a career's worth of experience in that one case. All right. We had the same problem there. They were stuck on the family, stuck on the family, stuck on the family. Well, we knew better, and we went back and we proved it, and we went through all that, and then we proved all the reasons why he could not have done it, didn't have anything to do with it, could not have hired anybody, could not have contracted anybody. We figured, and then we asked him, "Will you take a polygraph test?" He says, "Well, give it to me." And he took the polygraph test and he passed. Well, you know what I did? I called a press conference. That was coming back after we got a profile from Quantico. We got a profile from Quantico, and the newspaper found out we had gone back to Ohio. I sent 3 investigators to Ohio to re-interview everybody and re-interview everybody in their network, every friend, every high school, everything. Interview everybody, and interview Mr. Rogers again, interview everybody. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do that wasn't because I didn't think the first group of investigators that went up there did something, didn't get it all. We were trying to get enough together to go to Quantico to present a profile, to get a profile. And it's one of those unusual cases where it's a single event and they almost never give you a profile on a single event. It's just like this event here is a single event. And why don't we have a profile? Because they almost never, ever give one. Well, I managed to talk them into it. So we went up there and gave them a profile. Well, the day we went up there, the Tampa Tribune wrote an article saying that the investigative team has gone back to Ohio, back to his home, and because They're back. That's who did it. Basically, that's what the article said. They're back on who did it. The family. That was on. And you know how they found out? The newspapers, smart, no little smart reporters started figuring out that they could check travel logs and figure out what we were doing. So they had been checking the travel logs, and they found out that we had gone to Ohio recently. That three people went to Ohio. You know that those travel logs are public information. So that's how they found out. And then it just so happened they didn't know we were going to Quantico to work on a thing, but they wrote this article in the days we were going to Quantico. I got a call. I got to Quantico and they said, "You weren't gonna believe what's in the paper today." So what's that? All about your case and that y'all are going back to Ohio to find a killer. I called the editor of the Tampa Tribune and I chewed him out. I'm telling you what. You know what? They did it. They rescinded it in a little section later, you know. So anyway, why'd I say all that? I say all that because listen, you gotta you gotta eliminate them. We can't just buy. They can't buy speculation. Here's one of the reasons why I said this before in other videos. I'm sorry, I'm a little intense here, but is that if you go to court and you haven't eliminated them, you're not going to get a conviction. You're not going to get a conviction. They must be eliminated. But why? Because all of us think they did it. But I don't say that at all. I'm saying they're part of the investigation. Chris Nanos has said, no, they're done. They're out. They're out. Well, tell us how you're saying that. Are you saying that just because they're the family of Savannah Guthrie and you don't want to put pressure on them and, Senator so and so has put pressure on you and whatever? That ain't no good. If you ever go to court, you're going to find out it's going to be no good. Besides all the other problems they've already created with this case, with the scene and everything else. Anybody want to talk? I'll let y'all talk if you want to. If I can figure out how to do this again, put it in here, and if somebody wants to talk, I'll try. What do we have getting them back to the house? We got Nancy's telephone getting them back to the house. We got Nancy's watch getting them back to the house. We got Nancy's pacemaker taking them back to the house. They have all of A&T's, all their electronics. They got all that stuff. So the chance of, unless they're not telling us, listen, they could be not telling us all this stuff on purpose. If it was me, I wouldn't be telling you anything. Only strategic things that come out. Only strategic. In this last 6-month mark, they did a little strategic. They did a big dump. Hey, thank you, Jackie. Appreciate that. They did a big dump. Let's see what this person's got to say. Someone said that the people who dropped Nancy off, the first people to arrive at the crime scene. Yep. The people who called 911 and the people who informed on the facts. That was, we have a side with the PHA. Yeah. Not sure I understand what you're getting at there. They were the first. All that's true, what you said. And they were there. So they were the ones. They were the last ones to see them that night when they let them off, supposedly if they let them off. Okay. And they were the first ones in to find them in the morning after the church people reported her not coming. So they were the first ones. And then we're assuming they made the 911 call, which that's a pretty good assumption. I'm pretty sure. So so that's what happens. There you go. At least I got one person who agrees with me. I'm not saying the other isn't true. I'm telling you, some other really famous investigators are pretty close in the house, and I'm hanging on to the property anyway. Let me look here. All right, they went to Annie and Tommaso's house. They searched their house. They searched their house for blood, for all kinds of things. They did all that, and they took all their stuff. They searched their house. They searched their car. Why do you think they haven't? Now here's somebody brings up a good thing here. Who is this? Rhea? Why haven't the church ladies been interviewed? Well, we don't know that they haven't been. That's the thing. I agree with you. All these things need to be done, and I'm assuming they're doing those things. I can't. These are all good questions. The um, everybody on all these chat rooms. I'm saying the majority of everybody on all these chat rooms. They're all good armchair sleuths, and they're all good questions. Just like that's a good question. And those are the things that, because in spite of what everybody says, homicide investigation is not rocket science. It's common sense. Mostly it's common sense. And it can be experience, can be experience. Hey, there you go, Crutchies. Hey, thanks for the support. Uh, from the crazy kids. Yeah. Like, well, I enjoyed your thing tonight. You got me laughing. You, you were going off. It was funny. You ought to be a comedian, maybe. Uh, anyway, it was fun. But I'm trying to land that plane a little bit now without crashing it. Okay, I don't want to crash. What's funny? You said, Courtney, you said you're a glass half full person, and you probably are. You know what? I'm probably just the opposite. I'm a glass half empty person. Let's see. We got a long one in here. I'm gonna see if I can get this one to come up. Police Tonto did not inform the public when there was a serial sex offender and many women were assaulted as a result of the police not wanting to release the information. Absolutely. Why don't they? Why would they? I don't get that. It's just like this case here. They need to let everybody know in case there's a killer on the loose. What makes you think there's not? Because we think it's family. That's the point. One of the things in that case, in the Rogers murder family case, was not that they didn't. It was that they didn't do it. We wanted to prove that, not because we wanted to prove that. It was just the truth. All right. I wanted the people in the Tampa Bay area to know you got a killer on the loose. He might get you next. And actually, he did. He raped a woman 2 weeks before our killing. We didn't know about it. And after he left, after we shook the trees enough that he left our area and he went to the east coast of Florida, you know what he did? He killed one over there too. He also in Daytona Beach, he kidnapped a 14-year-old girl off the beach. He had a little sea camper that he was driving around on the prowl. He was constantly on the prowl, constantly on the prowl. So, you know what he did? He snatched this girl off Daytona Beach, put her in the back of his sea camper and tied her up and everything else. And he was taking her off, going to do the same things he did on the others. Serial killer. Well, listen, why did I want to get the people off the family? Because I wanted them to look at the guy next door. And guess what? It was the guy next door. It was the guy next door. One lady who had seen, I can't go through that whole case, but I'm just giving you examples how this can parallel. One lady who had seen the composite that was put out 6 months into the case. 6 months in, we got a composite. I won't go into that whole deal, but it was a good composite from one of the two women that was raped in Madeira Beach, Florida, which is right next door to St. Petersburg. They did a great composite, and they were from Canada. They were tourists anyway. They did a great composite. We put that out, generated, I don't know, 1,500 leads or so, but it didn't give us a suspect. You know why? A lady where he lived, the suspect lived on the same street as she did on an intercoastal waterway on a canal. He had a blue and white boat like the one we were looking for. She thought it was him. He lived 2 doors down. She looked at that composite. She cut the composite out and put it up on her refrigerator so she wouldn't forget it. But she didn't call. She didn't call. You know why she didn't call? Because her live-in boyfriend at the time said, "You really ought not to do that. You're going to ruin somebody's life, And yeah, okay. She bought into that. And then later on, she contacted a sheriff's deputy at a college where he was standing outside of a class where she was going to class, and so she told him about it then. He never reported that to us. We never got it over where we were. In a way, she thought she had reported it. Well, our suspect leaves because we shook the trees. She didn't report it until later on when we did a handwriting on the billboards and stuff, and she saw that, and that that thing kept ringing in her eyes. That composite she had on her refrigerator, which she had taken down by now. It was the guy next door. So that's my point. How do we know? How do we know it's not those two guys that robbed and killed a young officer yesterday? You got those kinds of people out there running around, and we until there's proof that family has done it, we got to leave all our options open. And I'm pretty certain that the police haven't closed off all those options. And if they really, I'm sorry, Al, I'm not able to keep up with this uh, chat very good. I want to. Let me go back and look and see what we got. Yeah, somebody brings up that Karen on the interview room tried to talk to a couple of the ladies in the church group, and they hung up on her. But that's talking to a reporter too. So you're talking to the police. That's a different story than talking to a reporter, or let's say a private investigator knocks on your door or something like that. But when the police knock on your door, you're more likely to talk to them, especially if you're a law-abiding citizen. You're going to talk to them. So I'm going with my gut on Nancy's. I can't shake it. That's right. A lot of us can't shake it. Chris Madonna can't shake it, apparently. Not that he should. Not that he should. If he was investigated, I'd feel a lot better. I'd feel a lot better. I'd feel a lot better. Let me show you if I can get it to come up. If I can get something to work here. I already got rid of that thing. So let me show you these. I don't know if you ever watch these guys or not. Matter of fact, I put together a whole list. I'll just call them off to you, just so y'all know. I should have printed it out or done something like that. I was going to tell y'all who all my favorites at this point are of creators that I watch. Favorite true crime creators. Of course, Thornbridge, Crime Crunchies, The Interview Room, 857 Tucson, Monk's Intrigue, Sleuth Intuition, Drunk Turkey, Patriots Pride, Adam and Mike, Ashley Banfield. Oh boy, people are going to dive now. Break the Case, Jennifer Coffindoffer, FBI, Juanita Adami, and Off the Cuff with Sergeant Bill Cannon from the New York City Police Department. Those are some of my favorites. That's not all the ones I watch, but those are some of my favorites. Oh, that's a good one. A matter of fact, that's on my list. This one here, I'm gonna see. Do you agree with Jim Cleveland's only? No, I do not. Matter of fact, I got him because you said that. I'm gonna see if I can bring him up here. I got him on two different ones. Now let me put him up there. I'll move that ain't gonna work. I'll do this here. These two guys here, the guy at the top, he's a sergeant from NYPD. He's a full New Yorker. You can catch that. But he's good. He's real good. And I think this is one of the guys who used to work with him. So I was just going to show this for a minute. Let me just start right here.
Where she gave them the initiative to hit her in the face. She started bleeding. It went down her throat. She coughed it up as she
What are y'all hearing that?
Went down to the ground here. This tells me that was most likely only one offender, because two offenders would have had control of her completely, and she would never have made her way down to the ground so close to be able to make that blood spatter, that medium velocity blood spatter.
Are you hearing that?
How could
Okay?
one person do this? She was 84. She could barely walk. She wasn't tiny. Carrying another human being, no matter what size they are,
I don't believe he was carrying her until after this point. At this point, she was ambulatory, and I believe she was punched. She was injured. She went down to her knees and her face was very close to the ground when she caught up. And after that, he picked her up and carried her away. Getting her to that point, he had a gun, a very visible gun, when he was on his way in. He used that gun to control her, but at this point, she fought back.
All right, so you're using your FBI profiler skills to really study everything you have, and which isn't much we have in the public sphere. But what using your skills as a profiler is the story to you on who this person is who took her?
Well, if two of the ransom notes were real, then part of the motivation was money. But I believe that there may have been a second motivation, and that is probably to hurt Savannah Guthrie. By taking her mother, by depriving her of.
So here's where Jim Clemente and Dr. Bricado, they align. Mm-hmm. They're both saying that this was payback.
So what he's fixing to go into in there is the thing I do agree with, and that is, well, I don't agree with it's only one person. I don't agree with that. But what he's fixing to go back in there is, I believe there's a great possibility that this is an elimination murder. Somebody had it in for Savannah, not for Nancy, but for Savannah. So we'll keep on going here. Listen to what they
something against Savannah Guthrie, and they took it out on her poor 84-year-old mother. So they're aligning with this theory. I look, Dr. Gary Bricado obviously has done thousands of hours of research, of study, of interviewing criminals in prisons and mental hospitals and all those things. So he's not just coming to these theories by, guessing, And the same thing with Jim Clemente. He was part of the FBI BAU unit, Behavioral Analysis Unit. He studied for years on how to become a profiler.
What's interesting about what he just said right there, Jim Clemente was on the committee at the profile. He didn't do the profile on our case, the Rogers case, but they had about 6 people in there that were all listening in, and there was a new female profiler who got the credit for doing the profile, but that was her first one, and she has been trained by everybody else. But one of them was Jim Clemente that was in on that. Just an interesting note there. But these guys, they know what they're talking about, but they're not always right either. And what I find extremely, extremely interesting is that they don't all seem to agree on everything, and some of them are really off. I do not agree with Clemente that it's only one. I don't believe one person could do it. And I won't bore you to death with going through all the reasons why I don't believe so, but I don't believe that one person could control her and do it and get out the door. For one thing, when they came out the door, why did he come around to the front? He came around to the front because whoever was inside was going to open the door and they were going to take her out. He came around to the front to disable the camera because they knew the camera was there. Unlike other people who say they don't know the camera was there, they knew the camera was there because they had surveilled it before. And on at least the 11th or before that, they knew that's just my thoughts. They knew the camera was there. And so he sent the one guy around to the front to, my little puppy just snuck in. They sent him around the front to take out the camera, and then they were going to bring her out. And when they brought her out, that's when she sneezed on the ground. And so if he came around the front to get the camera, what do you do? Leave Nancy just stumbling around inside the house or what? Do you have her tied up? I mean, all that stuff. It makes a lot more sense that there was 2 guys on the inside, and then I believe there was a third person driving a car that they called up by a 2-way radio and brought them up there. Now that's my theory on that. It doesn't make any difference in the end whether that's true or not true, but that's what I think anyway. So let's see what it's like. What else they got to say? I don't want to go too far with this. There was somewhere along here I wanted to hear what. Oh, here it is. Let's go with
I
this
think
part
it's
right
just
here.
fascinating to listen to two scientists really give two different opinions as to what occurred here.
There
Back
you
to Jim
go.
Clemente.
He's talking about the
That,
two
and
of
that
them,
could have been based on some
Dr. Gary
interaction
and
that this offender
Clemente.
had with the mother or with Savannah in the past. It could have been weeks or months or years ago. It could also have been just a delusion in his own mind. And he could have built up an anger and a resentment against her. And as a result, he felt justified in taking the mother to hurt her.
So I'm hearing you say he, you think it was a man, you think it was a
Yes.
man who was acting alone, and you think it was a man who had some sort of obsession with Savannah.
I think that's the highest
Watched her on
probability.
TV every morning and,
Yeah.
became obsessed somehow.
And he may have had some delusion going on in his brain and that nobody else knew about, or that he maybe spoke to some people about. And that's how we might be able to catch him, because at some point, somebody out there will recognize that this guy always talked about her, or said he was going to come into some money, or right as this happened, as the images were released, he left town because he had an emergency.
Super quick, Jim. Do you think, given, I know these are all your theories as a but you are a profiler and this is your expertise, was she alive for any portion of the time she was missing?
Well, she was certainly alive up until that point where she fell in her own front stoop.
Okay.
So when he took her, she was alive.
All right, Jim Clemente.
So, what that tells all of us too is that when he took her, she was alive, which implies she is now deceased. I don't know if there's anyone at this point, over 3 months in, that believes that Nancy Guthrie is still alive.
What's interesting, this is a 3-month old video clip that was just released today. It just popped up today. But anyway, the question to me, do you agree with Jim Clemente? It's only one No, I don't. I don't agree with that. But I agree with some of his other assessments. That's the problem with all these guys. We can't all be right on everything for sure. And I don't think. And like the New York detective there was talking about the. So what he was talking about is you got Dr. Gary Buccardo and you got Jim Clemente, and he was saying the same thing I'm saying. That's awfully odd. You can't get you can't get these two to agree. They're thinking just the opposite on certain things. So where does that leave the rest of us? That's exactly right, Jen. We don't have all the information for a truly informed opinion. That's exactly right. We don't. It's, we're doing the best we can. We're wanting to help. The public wants to help. And one of the best ways that they can help is to eliminate the family in a real way and not the way the sheriff has. He's like a ping pong ball, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. 1 week they're cleared, the next week they're not. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean there, because when they removing the battery operated camera from the mount does not mean it's being disabled. Well, I think it probably is. Now it might be going for a while and for a distance, but then once that's over with, it's disabled. That might be what was happening after he moved it. They have this camera that activated or something. I never understood all that. This is because they never made any of that clear. They don't have to make it clear, but there's another activation of a camera. Was that inside the house, outside the house, or whatever, after that 147 activation of that camera? Was it that camera activating inside of his backpack where he stuffed it or something? I don't know. You're absolutely right, Sarah. Profilers are good with patterns. That's why they need a bunch of them. That's why it's called serial killers. They're, after they've done 3, 4, 5, now they can come up with a profile that includes something like, because I'm sorry, I have to laugh. Just like on the profile we got when we went up there for my big case, they put the rookie, this new female out there, one of the first females in the profiling unit. Okay, put her out there and said, "Yo, you do this one. We're not doing this one." You know, it's because what you need a bunch of them to make a good profile, to make a good estimate. And then they're still not always right. You know, when they did the Unabomber guy the first time around, it wasn't really correct. When they tried it again later, it got a lot better. And then the brother saw when they what released the document. What was that? What did they call it? The manifesto. When they released the manifesto and how it was written and everything else, the brother saw it. He says, "That's my brother," and he turned him in. Yeah. Well, I've heard that theory before. It's just a big performance. Yeah, I've heard that from people who are in this chat. Just a big performance. I'll give you what I think about the guy on the let's see what. Okay, so does that mean the FBI has more than what they gave us? Probably do. Yeah, I had a theory about that on the beginning that they had more. Yeah, I like Fitzgerald. Um, he thinks it's on the notes and all. Him and his wife both think it's one person that wrote those notes, not two people. Same person wrote both notes. Anyway, I had a theory in the beginning on the film on the front because that thing jumped around a little bit and they didn't show us everything, and so I think they showed us what they wanted us to see, and I think they did not want us to see anything else. We don't know if he got that camera off before they came out. Obviously, they weren't wanting, they were trying to get the camera off before they came out. So it was less people exposed, and also it wouldn't show them pulling Nancy out or whatever. I don't know. Whoever was inside, they decided, the two of them, I'll make a big assumption here, the two of them decided that one of us needs to go outside and take that camera off because we don't want that camera documenting us or the car that's going to be pulling up. So he comes around and he takes it off. They hadn't planned this because he didn't have it. Like people have said a bunch of times, why didn't he have tape to put over it or something? Or why didn't he have a screwdriver or a wrench or a hammer to hammer it off? Whatever. Okay, because they weren't planning on going out the front door. They were planning on going out the back door. That's why the back doors were propped open. I believe they came in the back door and they were planning on going out the back door. Something happened, and we've talked about this before, whether it was the dog in the back barking or something like that was going on. Something kept them from going out. And maybe they were just waiting to see if the police were going to respond because of the dog activity in the back, and who is it? Sleuth Intuition. He did a whole thing. I think it was Sleuth. Yeah, Sleuth Intuition. He did a whole thing on the mapping over there and how they get in and out of there and all that. He did a great job. Those guys are really good at that. Him and Monk and Drunk Turkey, he's pretty good at all that stuff. I don't try all that stuff so much because it's tedious work and they're doing a great job of it. So why do I need to double do it? Anyway, I think they came in the back. If you'll go watch, I don't know, it's been a week or so ago. Sleuth Intuition did one on the whole thing. It's really good. How they could have done it very easily, where they parked the car and all that, at least temporarily. I don't know what went wrong. I have no idea. I think I just had too much stuff. I was doing all this research all day long with stuff. Yeah, I think I had too many windows open. I got this super duper computer here. I got 4 monitors running, and I have a laptop on the and all that. So thanks for staying around, you guys that are staying around. I appreciate that. I'm sorry for the trouble. I can't figure it out except I was just overloaded the system and it didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden it gave me a big click and then my mic was gone. And I don't have these pages up I was going to share anymore. But so we can just talk. If anybody wants to talk, let me open it up, see how crazy we can get if y'all want to try that. For one thing, I don't know if Courtney's still around, but she made me think today for sure about a bunch of stuff. We were going over what they need to do to eliminate them, and that's what they need to do. And that was the next on my list here of all this stuff. But I've already said most of it. But Derek Kalel, she Courtney on her thing last night. She went uh, she went over last night. Derek really hard, and there is a problem with Derek, that's for sure. Uh, and it is tied to Annie and Tommaso. And I can't run away from that. And yeah, they ought to clear themselves. Oh, there she is, Courtney. How about that? One of the problems that there is with Annie and Tommaso and Derek is this timeline on when he called. And I think it was Juanita Adami who brought that out last week or so. When he called them or when he texted them, that was before, as far as we know, that was before it had been made public about the Bitcoin and stuff. So if he was just playing a joke, how did he know to call them about the Bitcoin? Or how did he know to text them about the Bitcoin? Yeah, that's the biggest thing that holds me back on the whole thing is that tie right there. That's a weird tie, and he got such a sweetheart deal. It's. I mean, I've been involved in them sweetheart deals before. I mean, when I was back in narcotics, if we got somebody to flip and give us a big deal or a smuggler or something, they got sweetheart deals a lot of times because we got them on littler deals, and so if that's what's going on, we probably not going to know it. And I don't know that we're going to know it whenever he comes back into court. Now, I heard yesterday he's supposed to be in court, but I heard yesterday that they changed his court date to the 31st instead of like the 1st or 4th. I forget what it was. But, you know, the first note came in on the 2nd, if I'm right. You guys correct me in the chat now. I'm depending on you here. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. It was on the 2nd. All right. And then uh, he called. Oh, I had all this written down, but I lost it. It was typed out on my computer up here. There's no way he should have known about the Bitcoin. That's the bottom line of it. Whenever they first announced it, when they announced it, he should not have known. That's the way it sounds to me, and that's what Juanita Adami had figured out, and she's good at figuring this stuff out. So that's the problem, ain't it? We'll see. On the court date if it makes any difference. Now, if that court date comes and goes and he's not, and it's all goes just like he planned, where he got that sweetheart deal and he don't have to go to jail or anything, then there's a good likelihood they got something going on in the background that we're going to know about. And that's the way it ought to be. And maybe they were just fooling us with that big dump there a week or so ago when they were trying to get more leads and stuff. Maybe they don't need the more leads, or maybe they do. I don't know. When you're doing one of these kind of cases, you don't want to stop the leads. I don't care how tough it is. You don't want to stop the leads because somebody might call in about something that you really needed and you didn't know that you needed it. You know. Okay, it says here. They did not change his court date to the 31st. The prosecution has until the 31st to finalize any additional. Oh, okay. There you go. Somebody keeping me straight. Um, so when is the correct date? Is it September the 10th? Okay. The the fifth ransom fifth, yeah. So he called on the 4th. Are you saying the 5th was when the first ransom note was put out? I don't know. I had it wrote down on, like I said, I had it typed on a document and lost it when I lost all my stuff a while ago. But oh, there you go. Jen's gonna look it up for me. Y'all have it on all them charts y'all got. Uh, anyway, the 10th is when he's going back to court. All right, so we'll see by the 10th anyway. And that's the big ringer as far as I'm concerned with Annie and Tommaso is, as far as what we know. September the 10th is the hearing, yeah. All right. The second was the first note. Was note. Second was the first note. Fourth was okay. All right. So does that mean when did they tell us about the first note? I looked that up earlier today, but this thing messing up on me tonight blew my mind. I thought I had it, but when did they release to us the first note that let us know that there was a note? I mean, the FBI, this second six, right? When was the first note? Was it the 4th? Now I'm confused. But what else is new? Anyway, the way I had it worked out in my mind earlier, unless somebody else can figure it out here in the chat, all you sleuth people can figure it out. I had it in my mind that he really afternoon of the 4th. Was that when the FBI released the information about the first note on the 4th? Because the way I understood it, that's when he called in. Okay, the charging documents. That's when the FBI released a notice about the charging documents. That's right. And in the charging documents, it talked about the Bitcoin. So when did Derek call Annie and Tommaso? Was it right after that they released that? So maybe he did know about. Maybe he did know about them. I thought the way Juanita worked it out, and I was trying to work out that timeline today, is that he called before the FBI released the information on those charging ones. They made it public on the 4th. Okay. Okay, let's see what Lynn has to say. Okay. So that if that's right, then he could have heard about the Bitcoin, and his call was after he heard about it. See, if he called before that was made public, there's no way he should have known about it. But if he called after the FBI made those documents and all public about the Bitcoin, then you know, then he could have done exactly what he's claiming he did. And that is, he just was messing around. But if not, if he made the call before the FBI made it public about those notes, then that's a problem. So anybody else know about that? You all have that worked out in your mind? I had that as my last part of my notes today. That's the biggest problem that they have is if he called in or texted them before he could have known about the notes, then that's a big problem. I don't know. I don't. That's a good question. Why did the FBI release info so soon about those notes? I don't know. That timeline really needs to be worked out. And I think Juanita and Dami had it kind of worked out, but I think she was also, I'm not sure she was right either. If y'all can figure that out, that's a big thing right there. Yeah, I have a phone number to call in. I posted it earlier. Let me post it again. You can try it. The other day I got one call and then another person couldn't get their call to come through or something. And I heard old Adam talking about StreamYard. He don't like StreamYard too much, but limited part I've done with it, it's been pretty good. Then I saw who was it? Drunk Turkey. I saw Drunk Turkey today. He was using StreamYard for the first time, so he was saying, "Y'all be patient with me now. I don't know quite what I'm doing and all that, but it looked all pretty good to me." Oh, here comes Paige. How about Paige? Can you hear me, Paige? I can hear you. Can you hear me? You probably got it listened
I
to
can hear
your
you, but
uh, yeah, you're gonna
yeah,
have a
do you
delay
hear
on
an
your
echo?
yeah, you're gonna have a delay or whatever on your
Let me,
screen.
let me, let me come back. Let me come back.
Okay,
Okay, all right,
bye.
bye. Okay.
Well, I don't know what's going on with Paige. She called in the other day successfully. Anybody else want to call in and correct me? Jennifer, do you have a phone number to call in? Yeah, I do. All right, let me read some of this. He was arrested on the 5th, and the second note came out on the 6th. Yeah. All right. This okay. Let's see if we can get Paige again. You in there, Paige? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't figure out how to hear you again and not have the volume turned on for feedback or whatever. Anyways, can you hear me?
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, I can hear you. I've got you turned down to avoid feedback or whatever, right?
Okay.
I'm just calling to say I went invisible at the same time you lost sound.
Oh, really? Yeah, I got your message on
Okay,
X. Yeah, I got that
okay,
message. I
okay.
don't know
All
if
right,
that's
I'm
it,
done.
but
That's all I wanted to say.
okay.
Okay, love
Thanks
you.
for stopping in. Thank
Bye.
you very much. Bye bye. So I got Jen on there now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what I'm doing. That's one of the problems.
Well, I think this stuff is
Uh,
so hard anyway. I hope I have this right. So it looks like that the public information timeline that was put out was February 2nd through the 6th. They asked for a media hold. So when KOLD, I mean, I just looked this up, it said, when KOLD TV and other outlets first received the notes demanding $4 million in Bitcoin, CNN and local news stations agreed to a law enforcement hold. They kept the specific content secret so investigators could verify future communications without interference. And then I guess it says February 7th, the public announcement was made 5 days after the first note was sent that they learned an extortion demand when Savannah Guthrie and her siblings posted the video. And it shows that his arrest occurred less than 24 hours after he sent the text, which was on February 4th. So it does sound like he said, "Do you have the Bitcoin?" before any of us knew that there was an extortion attempt.
right. Okay. That's what I think Juanita was saying. And I
Yep.
was trying to figure that out. So they didn't release the information about the notes until the 7th.
That's what it says on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess it happened on February 2nd, and February 2nd through the 6th, they agreed to a law enforcement hold. And then February 7th was the public announcement, which was 5 days after the first note, when Savannah Guthrie and her siblings posted a video for a plea. And that's when they said, we understand and we will pay. So, but yeah, it says the timeline, his arrest occurred less than 24 hours after he sent the first fraudulent text, which was on February 4th. And
Okay.
which,
So,
yeah, that's
what
the
that shows
problem.
you is how fast they can move on this electronic stuff, you see. And if
Yeah.
they have that kind of stuff on Annie and Tommaso, I'm surprised they haven't moved on them. But, as far as that goes, for him, if that's when there was no way any of us knew about the notes unless he knew about it. I don't know how he could know about it. He's in California. How would he know about it? So if he called in before it was made public to the rest of us, how would he know about it?
I don't know. Jet Set is saying that TMZ says that they received it on the 3rd. But I don't know. See,
Well,
that's the problem. It's like we know when they received them. I don't know when the public was
yeah. When did when
notified.
did
Yeah,
when did TMZ put it out? When did anybody put it out so
I
that
don't know.
Derek could have seen it? You
Yeah,
see?
she says the note was also sent to two Tucson's and demanded 4 million by February 5th. Yeah, I know that when I talked to KOLD, and I guess we've all heard that they got it that Monday because she went missing on the Sunday. So yeah, that's very interesting because when she put that out, I'm like, that's true. We don't know when that text came in. We know when we were reported, to that, oh, some guy sent a text, but the text and the phone call, that kind of makes things a little suspicious. I think the thing that a lot of us want to ask you is, I mean,
Okay.
obviously we know there's a lot of different moving parts. I call them tributaries off of the main source, Nancy being the main source. And then there's a lot of tributaries coming off of her from evidence to suspects to theories, right? So then you don't know
Right.
which cord to cut, right? So it's like, I think for me, the question is if it was family, which a lot of us are really hoping truly that it's not. Unfortunately, statistics, that's where it falls. And if FBI is not going to come out and make a statement, a formal statement saying they're cleared and this is why, and all we hear is Nano saying, oh, they're cleared. But then he makes that weird statement afterwards saying, but if somebody comes back to us and says they're involved, well, then, we have to relook at it. Well, that's not cleared. So if if they're cleared and FBI hasn't said anything, and then my thought is they're still on the table, and to actually definitively prosecute somebody that's family, in my mind, it would have to be a heck of a lot of evidence, and it would have to be a heck of a lot more than DNA in a car, because we know she was on blood thinners. She could have cut her arm and been in their car. Oh,
Yeah.
now we can explain the blood. I mean,
It's
like I
not
said,
going to be DNA.
yeah,
I
so it's
don't
not
think
going
it's
to be
going to be
DNA.
DNA. Right? Their DNA, their DNA is in that house easily can be explained, and a lot of other reasons too. And her DNA in that car, unless they found blood in the car, I mean, a pile of blood, something like that.
It would have to be
Then that
more
would,
significant than a cut. I mean,
yeah,
because my
you're
my
right,
dad had hurt his arm, and we were trying to find paper towels in my car, and he's on blood thinners, so the skin is thin, and I mean that
right.
happened
But
at
if
our
it was in
house.
the But if it was in the back of the car, in the under on the deck or in the trunk or whatever you want to call it for an SUV, all right, so then that would be more substantial than uh, other places in the car if there was a accumulation of blood, which I don't think they found, because if they found that and it was her blood, I mean, they'd probably be in jail by now. But
Yeah,
I don't know. One thing about the FBI The FBI is not going to make a charge that they know they can't win. And
Right.
the U.S. Attorney's Office is not going to go along with a charge they know they can't win, especially against any family members. It ain't going to happen. They're going to have an incredible case because you know who's going to come to the rescue. They say she's false, they're falsely, accused and all this kind of stuff. And there's not going to. That's what I think anyway.
So if the other people that have been implicated, say, when I say implicated, I mean detained and let go, have other, we're talking about Colella, Luke, and Luke had charges from May of the previous year, and they've been completely dropped, like completely dropped. The interesting thing is the girl that he was arrested with is in prison right now, and it's only on a
Yeah,
drug charge, and she had the same
yeah,
charges as he did.
yeah.
And
I know.
I don't, and then she's in isolation, like she can't even have visitors. I feel like that smells to high heaven to me because it also shows that she had a plea deal, but it also shows that she requested it to be sealed, and it is.
Mhm.
What
All
does that
right.
say
So
to
here,
you?
well, it's an issue. I mean, it could be something. It could be just like Derek Colell, something like that for sure. But we don't know. Sometimes things don't always aren't always like they appear for sure. So Michelle here, she's saying first TMZ video referenced the ransom note request Bitcom on February the 3rd.
Okay, so
Here's
yeah,
another
see,
one.
yeah, Lynn said it too. So yeah, then that wouldn't make sense. So I mean, I think
So
that's what a lot of us thought is that when by the time we heard about him, we already knew about the Bitcoin. But when Juanita said that, I'm like, well, now I don't know. It's been too much time. I don't remember. So
yeah, and so he made his phone call on the 4th. Is that correct? Am I
that's what I'm
remembering that right
hearing.
now?
That's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing. Yeah. That's what I see on this is that he made a phone call and text on February 4th, which was less than 24 hours. Um, let's see, his arrest occurred less than 24 hours after he sent the fraudulent text and made a phone call. So,
Okay. All right. So let me see here.
and that phone call and everything was done on February 4th.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm being asked now, think about one person. Quit thinking about the multiple people. Hey, one person can work. It can. I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying what my thoughts are. That, and I'm not running the investigation. But one person can work, just like Jim Clemente said, one person can work, you know?
It just sounds a
So,
lot more complicated.
yeah, it does. But he makes a point that the guy had a gun and, that kind of thing. I had the same thing in that Rogers murder case. People said, how could one guy control three women and all that? Because he threatened them with a gun, a knife. He threatened to throw them overboard, which he ended up doing, all kinds of things. And uh, that committee that I think Jim Committee was part of, they all believed it was going to be more than one person. But it's kind of like Dr. Gary always put. There's a chef and a waiter. There's one person in charge, and another person is the flunky. So who knows?
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
we just appreciate having you as another source to bounce things off of. So, what is
let's
inner
see
strength?
what
She said her
Inner
home was,
Strength says. Yeah.
yeah,
What is she saying? Read it. What does
her
she
home
say?
was not raided by the FBI. An FBI raid on Luke's house made it look like they were out to get the guy, and any good defense attorney would have used that,
Okay.
which was why they dropped his charges. They would not have been able to prove he wasn't being targeted.
hmm
I don't know. I don't know how that
Yeah, I don't
works.
know. I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with all that to make a evaluation in a way.
people are saying that that they think that the reason they dropped the charges from his previous charges, the May before in 2025, was because they were trying to make him not sue them, Pima County, like
Well, that
Carlos
could be too.
Palazuelos is. But I don't know how that works, because even Carlos hasn't done a formal lawsuit. He's saying, I think he's put in, I don't know what you call that, but it's a pre. He hasn't filed a formal lawsuit. It's a pre thing. I don't know what that's called. But I had
So,
somebody look it up and they said it's not officially filed, like he hasn't officially sued. So, but even so, my brother-in-law made it sound like you guys all the time as homicide detectives will have probable cause. You do a raid, you have 5 hours to hold them. You can't hold them beyond that unless you have enough evidence to arrest them and make it stick. So you try to get as much information as you can, and it's sealed usually in perpetuity until somebody's arrested, until those people are completely off the table. So I said, so that's
well, that's
normal?
true.
And that's what he said, but is
Yeah.
that your
That's
experience
it's
too?
not. Yeah, it's not always, but it's according to the judge. In this case here, that's the judge is going along with that being sealed. Okay. The what you really want sealed is the affidavit, not the search warrant itself. The affidavit is what sets out the probable cause. The search warrant is separate. Matter of fact, I can go to a house with a search warrant, serve the search warrant, and they never know what my probable cause was. And you don't want them to know that information until much later. Does that make sense? There's two parts
Yes.
to a search warrant. There's an affidavit. That's what the judge is really reading. And then there's the search warrant that gives you the authority to go in and search. Okay, so and it might name all the things you're searching for, the main things you're searching for, but it doesn't give you the information about what gave you your probable cause. Now the judge gets all that, but the person that you're serving the search warrant on doesn't get that. They just get the search warrant, and then they get, if you take anything out of the house, they get a receipt that lists everything you've taken out of the house, and you give them that receipt and the search warrant on your exit from the house. And if you take them with you, then you give him the choice: do you want to take this with you, or do you want me to leave it in the house? Let me see here. Now, inner strength, she seems to be up on some of this stuff. She says, I got her here. She's up here on the thing. She says the first ransom note was sent to the local news on February 2nd. They were not released publicly. Now, I think in a later one right after that, she says that they were released on the 3rd. TMZ publicly released the notes on February the 3rd. Okay. So if that's the case, then Derek called on the 4th. He would have known about the ransom notes. He's the guy to watch TMZ. I don't watch TMZ, but he would be watching that. A lot of people watch it now just to keep up with what's going on. But anyway, so does that make sense? And now it sounds to me like, I mean, if Inner Strength's got her story right, and I don't mean to put that on you, Inner Strength. If she's got that right, then let's see, she's got a no in here. She's on this stuff. February 4th was when he sent those texts. We do not know about the Bitcoin, or we did not know about the Bitcoin. On February 4th, when DC sent those texts, we did not know about the Bitcoin.
We did
However,
know.
his charges documents on February 2nd. We did know. I'm sorry. I said did not. I'm sorry. Okay, we did know about the Bitcoin. However, his charging documents refer to February 2nd. The issue is February 2nd being the day that the family received it. Yeah. But
So what
still,
exactly?
he's claiming that he was playing a joke. There's no way for him to have made that call if he didn't know about the Bitcoin. So he knew about the Bitcoin because it got released to the public, and like Inner Strength is pointing out here, it was released to the public on the 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Right.
This is like who's. I feel like we're now
Yeah,
in
this is
Abbott and
almost like
Costello.
Courtney's trying to figure out that stuff earlier tonight when she was going through all that.
Who's that third? Well, I don't understand what
Yeah,
she means by however his charging docs refers to February 2nd.
charging documents refer to February 2nd. I don't know what that means either. Charging February 2nd. Well, that's when the notes. I mean, that's when the notes came in. Is that right?
Okay,
Get
so that's
straight
why
hair,
maybe
inner strength.
I think that's the problem. What she's saying is it
Yeah,
got confusing because it's referring to February 2nd being the date that the family was issued that. So yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the family waited 2 additional days to put out their plea to the kidnapper that threatened to kill their mother. Okay, well then,
all right.
I don't know.
All right. So, no
Now,
deal not to sue Human was made by Luke. Okay. No deal not to sue. Yeah, I doubt that deal was made either. All right. So, while we got you going here, inner strength. Do we have this right? Could Derek Coletta, however you pronounce his last name,
Palella, yeah.
he Galala, could he have known about the Bitcoin before he sent those texts and called them? Could he have known that?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's highly possible. And by the way, I don't know if it's Kalela or Kalea. I've heard that said that way too.
I've
So
heard it both ways too now.
I've
So
also heard Kalela la la la. So
yeah, I probably I probably said that.
oh my gosh. Well, I guess
Yeah,
my question is with all of these weird things with, you know, Luke, Kayla was arrested the day before Luke was had SWAT. So I think there's been a lot of suspicion that because the two of them were
sure,
already in that, arrest together from the year before and it was still pending or
sure,
whatever.
sure.
And then, now she's in prison for one of those charges that he was let off for. People are saying, oh, well, he probably had a better attorney. I'm going, I don't understand that. I think both of
Let me
them
see
had
this
the
here.
almost exact same day, too, that they both had their charges dropped, which was in June. And what's fascinating is neither one of them, that information didn't pop up until the end of July. And I don't know why
Hmm.
it would take that long to report. And the fact that she's in isolation with no visitors, it's causing a lot of flags to start waving. Like, what's happening?
Well, yeah, it does, but for us, it does. For law enforcement, I mean, they might have already settled it in their minds, and whatever it is. Now, the only way that seems to work for me is that she gave them information on Luke, right?
Well, that's
And
what we're assuming.
yeah, but why ain't Luke in jail then?
Well,
If it
that's
was
what
really
I'm
that
wondering.
good,
If he was porch guy, say she just knew about it by proxy. So she gets arrested the day before and says, I know something that you don't know. And says, I think he's porch guy. And here's why. And then she goes through her thing. So they get enough, whatever evidence to go ahead and swat him. Then he gets, all this attention is trying to get through it. And maybe his attorney, let's say he is porch guy, says, we want a deal. And he starts negotiating. And they're like, we want all other charges dropped. And he'll roll on everybody that hired him. Is that possible?
yeah, anything's possible. I mean, really, that's how they operate. That's how they're going to operate if they're going to operate. That's what it could work that way. But
Yeah.
here's the
Okay.
thing, it's going to take more than that. It's these unreliable people, these druggies and everybody else trying to get out of whatever they're charged with, trying to give this information. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They're going to want more than that before they charge somebody like Savannah Guthrie's family for something
Right.
like
Like,
that.
tell us where the body is, sir.
Exactly.
We're going
Yeah,
to need to know a little bit more than that. Do you have a phone number? Do you have any other proof, any other communication? I feel like that's the problem, is that it's going to have to be a hell of a lot, excuse my French, of, digital evidence. And then if it's a no body homicide, they're going to have a heck of a lot of a hump to get over to arrest anybody that's close to the family.
you're right about
So
that. So let's hope
interest.
it's not them, huh? I don't
Yeah.
want it to be them anyway. Truth is, I
Well,
mean,
me
and like
either.
I
I'm
said
thinking.
earlier in this podcast or whatever you call it, uh, I don't care about being right. I don't have to be right. I don't
No.
have to be one that says, "Oh, I told you so." I don't care. I really, people won't believe it, but I really just trying to keep this alive as far as we can because I know what's going to happen. It's going to get cold. It's going to be forgotten. It'll be 10 years from now. You
That's what I
know,
think everybody's worried about. This isn't the game of Clue. We all know that. And it's playing, Glenn. And I think, the problem is for a lot of us is that we're all aware of that. We're all aware that these are real people, real lives, and a real missing person. I think we're just not feeling the support. Like, I personally have received 2 emails from other families that have missing family members saying, can you look into this case? It's actually, my brother-in-law has been missing. So I think there's other people
well,
out there that wish they had the
you're
attention.
right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Because the truth is, um, most missing person cases don't never get this kind of attention. You understand my word? Never, never
Yes.
get this kind of attention. It just doesn't happen. I mean, you think about how much attention has gone to this on this case, and now what happened in the last couple of days is they've already drawn away from the task force. I think, according to I just came on it in the last before I was fixing to come on here, the sheriff making some kind of statement about he was being questioned by a reporter on this homicide thing. They pulled out all the stops on this homicide. This is another officer getting killed and all that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
they might have already pulled from this task force to work that case, which is
Oh my
understandable.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. So I don't know that. Okay, I just like I said, I was watching my other computer over here, and I had it on 857, and he had something playing, live there, and it had to do with and the sheriff was talking, and that was what he was talking about. Yeah, I've got to pull other people. There's other things that go on and all this. Well, see, I know that's what's going to happen. Once you get beyond the 6 month mark, uh, you know, once you get beyond the 6 month mark, it really starts to go dead. That's why they all of a sudden at the 6 month mark decided they were going to do this data dump on us and this information dump and everything on us. And Savannah all of a sudden is going to come out and start talking and pushing and everything else because they know they got to get this done or it's going to be over within a year. You know. So let me see what Inner Strength's got to say here again.
She's saying what a lot of us are thinking. It's like, I'm sorry, most people, if they're going to try to extort money out of a family member, they're not going to say, excuse me, did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting on our end for the transaction. Thanks. We really appreciate it. They're going to say,
Yeah,
we got your mom. We got your
I'm
mama.
not.
We want
Yeah.
some money. You know, I don't think it's just not
All
logical
right,
to know.
Inner Strength here. She's really watched. She's up on this stuff. It's almost as much as you, Jen. Not quite,
Oh,
but
we're friends. So
oh,
yes.
okay. Are you really? You know her?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
So yeah, we
but
talk
he
often. She's
says,
amazing.
okay, all right. Now this makes sense. But you are not going to text somebody and ask them if they have received Bitcoin yet. It's very clear that A&T knew exactly what Bitcoin he was talking about. Yeah, they would know because they knew about the demand for Bitcoin, but I don't know. I mean, believe
Well,
it or not,
Divine said
it could be just a prank. It could be.
just to have fun
Yeah,
and
there's
get
stupid people
arrested.
out there. A lot of stupid people out there, and he's already proven to be one of them.
Yeah, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed for
Yeah,
sure. But But I guess, he was also implicated in the Hannah Kobayashi case. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't know about that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, he was friends with the guy that was trying to pay her thousands of dollars to pretend to be his wife and go down to Mexico. And he texted the guy and said, "You might want to get rid of your profile. People are looking for you." So it's like he's kind of a weird dude. He's got a lot of,
Well, look at that. That's a prank, ain't it?
well, not a prank. He was literally trying to tell his friend to take down his profile because people were looking for him. So I don't
Okay.
know, because the friend
All
was
right,
the
look at
one.
this one here.
Yeah.
Channel 4 interviewed the sheriff on the 2nd, and I guess they're saying he leaked the Bitcoin and blood on the inside of the house. Also, TMZ leaked on their website then the next day on their show. I don't know.
I never saw
I don't
that.
know how it works out. Yeah, I didn't see
Yeah,
that either, but I'm not saying it didn't happen.
that's right. Yeah, I don't know. Very confusing. Well, thank you for letting me call in. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been
Nice talking
definitely.
to you.
Thanks so much.
I always appreciate your viewpoint for sure. Okay?
Well,
You
thank
got
you so
tons of
much.
good questions,
Thanks, Boomer. We love your
you
show.
well, thanks for calling in. Thanks for
Okay.
chiming in.
Good night.
And good night.
I'll see you in
It's
the
almost
chat.
time for
All
me to go to bed too.
right. Bye.
Look at this. This guy says, "Sure, meth heads just do it for fun." Oh, yeah, he's a loser. Yeah, that's true, man. You'd be surprised what people do. All right, let's see what. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean there, though. I mean, who's identifying? You mean Thomas and Annie, or do you mean Derek? Derek identifying himself? Yeah, is that what you're saying? Derek identify himself, and then they would say, "Who are you? See you later." Oh, you're not leaving. You're just saying bye to. Oh, y'all are so much fun. Yeah, meth heads don't sit still. You got that right. They're usually out on the prowl to break in somebody's house. Yep, you're right, Aaron Straight. The truth is, we are living in some weird world. We are. We just haven't all figured it out yet. Anybody else want to call in? Let me see who else we got here. We've been going quite a while, and I don't have any stuff to pull up here and look at anymore because my computer crashed on me. So I'm probably going to put out some other kind of a video here the next day or so and do this. But I'm really getting the hang of it to some degree, or I'm enjoying these live streams. And if you got more people that would chime in a little bit, it would help out too. But I can't just drive around like Tucson does and everybody follow me around. I want to report on some other cases. Any of y'all know about this Elena Moore case from Lexington, South Carolina? I've actually got a can authorities not search homes in neighborhoods since no vehicle has been connected? No, they can't search. Mm-mm. No, you can barely, if you're a policeman, you can barely trespass on anybody's property um, to question them. But you certainly can't search anything. You make a request. It's all about making a request. All of a sudden, my camera's gone out of focus. Boy, it's been a night. DC's a meth head. Yeah, he is. Yeah, I know. But the problem is with that. Now, I hear you. I hear you. And the police ought to be making all these connections that you're saying. They ought to be making all these connections for the same reason you're making them, and the same reason Inner Strength and Jennifer from Thornbridge is making them. The same reason everybody's making them, because they make you think can this person be involved because they do have a connection? There's a connection some way or other. They could have met. They could have met some way or other. They could have set something up some way or other. So I hope they're doing all that work. Well, do we know that he didn't state his name? That's the other thing. Do we know that he didn't? Don't tell anybody, but whenever I was a private eye, I used to use those too. Hey, there's a, I did put another case on my, I did put another case on my YouTube site that's very, very, very interesting. Now, I wasn't, the lead detective, but I did supervise that case, and there's another two detectives, but they only show one on the show. Is very, very interesting. Another case I put up, if you want to look at that sometime, it's actually about a woman who was found alongside the Interstate 275, St. Petersburg, off to the side up by a fence, and a guy mowing the side of the road and all. He got off his tractor and walked behind this cypress tree area, and guess what he was going to do? Well, he was taking a leak, and he looks down right where he's facing the leak, and there's a skull on the ground. Well, you imagine what he thought. Well, he reported that, and that started the ball rolling. And we had a crew of, I think, eventually 40 detectives out there sifting through all that muck and stuff to find. And we had anthropologists out there. I found out that day that find out a lot of things. I had them block off one lane of the interstate. Guess what I found out? You can't do that without the governor's permission. Well, guess what? We got the governor's permission, and we blocked off one lane of the interstate, and we were out there for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days, sifting through all that stuff, very scientifically. And out of that, we came up with a skeletal remains and some clothes and stuff, and figured out that they were. If you want to look at that, it's on there. You can go watch it. It's on YouTube or one of those. It might be on one of the crime channels, so you can watch it. Let's see what's she saying here. Ever considered DC was just one of the first to assume TC was possibly involved and was facing just to see if it would slip up and admit. Maybe. That would be pretty good PI work, huh? The only thing is he's not a PI. He got himself in some deep trouble if that's what he did. You never know. The strange things people do and say. Her name was, oh man, I can't believe I can't remember her name. I got it on this computer over here. Let me look. I think I do. I think I do. Cheryl Comesso was her name. Cheryl Comesso. You can look that up. Cheryl Comesso. It's Cheryl Cheryl Comesso Commesso, and it is on YouTube. Yeah, and Mark DeSaro is the lead detective. There was actually two lead detectives on that. One was Bob Schock, and the other was Mark DeSaro. And Mark DeSaro was on my task force for the Rogers murders too. He was and he's a homicide detective. Anyway, that's a case. You don't get many cases. I got several other ones too. They're pretty good, but that's a case. That is bizarre case. Not it's bizarre when you get to the end when you figure out who this girl really was. Well, you might live in a make-believe world. Maybe you keep your house cleaned up all the time. Some people wouldn't want you in their house ever. Not you particularly, but people. I got in trouble a month or so ago for letting the Terminex man come into the house when my wife wasn't ready. Check for yearly termites. The house isn't cleaned up. It looks pretty clean to me. They only stated what he texted, not what he stated on the voice message on the 9-second phone call. All right, so that's a good question right there because I'm not clear. Was it a voice message or did he actually talk to someone? Does anybody know that? Do all you sleuths out there know that? Off topic. Well, we're not allowed to go off topic, Molly. I don't know who you're talking about. Y'all have to enlighten me. I'm an old guy. I don't know about all this. Why did Savannah visit Carson Daly's house? I don't trust her. 10-foot pole. Well, who's Carson Daly? Is that the other Daly? Is that a relative or something? And I don't know that she visited. It says he made a 9-second call. I don't believe they tell us anything other than that. Okay. Yeah. It might have been just a text. I mean, just a voicemail. Could have been just a voicemail. We found the timeline. Found the time, approximately 6:02 p.m. on February 4th. All right. So that's when the phone call was made, or was that when the media made a release? Or made a release. That's when he made the phone call or the text message. Yes, the lady who recognized him did get rewarded. Actually, we split. It was only a $25,000 reward, which is a big bunch of money back then. Yes, she got rewarded. We split it up though amongst her and two other neighbors who all put together their contracts for which the Tin Man. We called him the Tin Man too. He had no heart. That's number one. But he also his job was putting up screened enclosures, stuff like that. So he worked with tin metal a lot or aluminum. So so that the lady who originally did it, she went to her neighbors and they all pulled contracts and compared them, and we took all those contracts, and that's how we were able to get enough handwriting so that we'd have something to compare. So we ended up giving $15,000 to the first lady and $5,000 to the other two. That's the way the cookie crumbles. And then I got called to the chief's office because we changed chiefs around that time. I was always getting called to the chief's office for some reason. But anyway, he said, "Who authorized this $25,000 reward?" I said, "Chief Kurtzinger did." Well, who gave him authority to authorize that? I don't know. I mean, but the man authorized it. He was here when we put it out and everything else. Now, just because he got fired later, that ain't my problem. We put it out. There was a $25,000 reward. We're gonna have to pay it. So the current chief uh, had to explain to the mayor, why are you going to have to pay this reward? No big deal. They waste more than $25,000 every other day. It's the best money they ever spent. I hear you, man. There's a Damien from 857 Tucson. He talks about that a lot. Anybody else got guts enough to come online? You can call in. I'll put the number back up here again if you want to. Otherwise, we're probably going to end this here pretty soon. I know we had a break for my computer failure, but I'll give it another shot because I kind of lost my whole package when my computer puked on me. Over. Are they, is the ones I missed or something? I guess I did, huh? Yeah, I'll look back. See if I can look back right now. But, well, that's too reasonable a question, Jill. I don't know. I think they were having a hard time controlling Annie. And I think that's why it took two. Because I think Annie was putting up a fight. You know, from what everybody says, she's an independent woman. And I think she put up a good fight, which is why she got slugged in the face, you know. Oh, that might be right. Now, I haven't studied that to nth degree like that. You know, what's his name? Because I left him off my list. He'll be mad at me. Uh, the coffee man. He's studying that guy as much as monks and those other guys have. If the roofer that would explain why he bends his hip and slight dip in his left side. Well, you know, when I looked at that originally, I was looking at the backpack he had on was heavy, and it made him when he bent down, he made him twist to the left because of that. Now I might be totally wrong on that. The offender looks like a roofer who has carried heavy shingles over his left shoulder for a while and his foot placement on someone. Yeah, well, it might be. You might be right. You might be right about that. Now, you know, other people have said that bite light, for example, one of the other guys, Sleuth, Tuition, I think Sleuth, who, you know, if you go back and find his Sleuth, he found the jacket, the exact jacket, and it's black. It doesn't appear the way it looks to us. It's black. He got the exact, you know, backpack. He got the, he said he got the exact holster, and he found a bite light that probably is the bite light that was used. Now, I heard that these bite lights, a lot of electricians use them, and I've heard other people too, you know, that use them. He might be a roofer. I wouldn't, you know, he was. I can see what you're seeing. I just didn't see it that way myself. And you know me, I've never been wrong. I just thought it was a heavy a backpack, heavy backpack. And then I think in that backpack, more I've thought about it. You know, I said the other day on some thing I did, I said I thought it might be a computer in there, but I think it might have been the jammer. They might have had a jammer, and they thought that camera, they thought the Wi-Fi was jammed. You know, the neighbors around there, some of the neighbors said they lost connection at that time. Hello, Ruby. Justice, nice to have you. We're about to finish up, though. Glad you're here. In that backpack, he might have had a jammer, you know, one of them El Cheapo jammers, and that might have, he wasn't expecting that front camera to work, and maybe that's why other things, you know, cameras weren't working around the house. They're all hooked to Wi-Fi. So if you can keep the Wi-Fi from working, you know, that might be what they did. Yeah, yeah, that's the assumption. That's the assumption. He's saying, hey, we're waiting on it. We're waiting on it. You know, it's a really stupid prank. If it's a prank, if it's not a prank, it's exactly what he's saying. Hey, did you get the Bitcoin yet? We haven't got it yet. I don't know. Think about this now, y'all. Answer me this riddle. Whoever this was on the front porch, if it was something that Annie and Tommaso, somebody that Annie and Tommaso hired, or, you know, he's expecting to be paid, whether it was successful or not. So he's either going to get paid, or they're worried about him coming to collect out of their hide. So think about that one. If this was some sorry, hey Jackie, thank you very much. If this was some sorry, you know, dude that they hired, and it's got to be a hoodlum. I say that. I just think so. I think, you know, it's got to be somebody who's done pretty bad stuff before. If you're going to, I'll call it beat up an old woman, okay? Smash an old woman in the face, make her bleed like that, treat her like that, and do what they did to her. Are you kidding me? So I think if somebody hired somebody, that's who they hired. They hired somebody like these guys in Tucson that you know, I'm not saying it's them at all, not even close, because I don't think they're physical spit, but they shot this rookie cop and his girlfriend. who worked at the jail. So it's got to take somebody like that to do this kind of deed. And so that person who was doing it for a fee wants to get paid, whether it was successful or not. I'm sure they didn't have a contract that says you have to get her out there successfully and we have to collect the money. No, a hoodlum like that, he's going to get his money. So just think about that one. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good thinking there, Lynn. If that's the case, uh, do you know that to be a fact that their Wi-Fi boxes on the fence or in the fence area? Let's see. Her box is on the fence area where the trash can near the garage. Okay, well, could be. My Wi-Fi is right here in my house. Nobody could get. Well, you could get to the Wi-Fi on the outside on a box on the house. You could. Could I say that? My router's on the inside. The actual hardwire that comes from the company is on the outside of the house, so you could do that. Exactly. That's why they may be missing in action. They're hiding from that bad guy who's going to collect. Vicky, one of my favorite commenters, did do we know that they moved out? I mean, they took their furniture, they moved their stuff out, or are they just gone for a while? Yeah, if it was me, I'd have been gone for a while too, especially if I had somebody to foot the bill. Now, they don't have any money. I mean, not that we know of. And neither did Nancy. Nancy wasn't a person with a lot of money. There's a guy that did an incredible thing on this. His name is Faithful Servant. Look up Faithful Servant on the internet. And he's got a long 4-hour thing, but if you watch the first hour or so of it, or the first segment of it, he breaks all their finances down, and he did it through Chat GBT or whatever, just like Courtney uses. Okay, because that's the smart way to do things this day and age. So he breaks down all their finances, no, I don't know about all of their finances, all of Nancy's finances. Nancy, from the time she owned that house is used as a piggy bank for everything. I think for sending Savannah to college, law school, for uh, Annie to go to college, and all that. The sequence of a whole lot of borrowing on that house comes with those time frames that were happening. So if you watch that guy's thing, you'll get an education on that. So Annie and Tommaso might have moved out to get away from the paparazzi, so to speak, which is us YouTubers and streamers now. It's a new paparazzi. So, if you can imagine, if you were put in that position, what would you do? I'd leave too. I'd go somewhere. If I had the money, I'd go somewhere. And Savannah's got the money. Maybe she gave him the money. And they went to Italy. I understand they like to go to Italy. I just heard this is rumors. They like to go to Italy in the summertime anywhere where Tommaso's from. So maybe that's what they did. Yeah, he did. I think he still has that problem going on. Mommy Rolex. Do you have a Rolex? This is the strangest case. This is one of the strangest cases I've ever seen or heard of. And I don't believe we'll see another case, not in my lifetime anyway. You'll never see another case like this for 50 years, maybe longer. How long ago was it that the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped? Close to 100 years ago, wasn't it? Or 80, 90 years ago anyway. Well, this is that type of a case, really, in a way. And think about it. There was a baby, one end of the spectrum, to an 84-year-old woman. People don't appreciate you taking babies, and don't appreciate you taking the old people either, especially a grandmama, especially a mama. And this is one of the things that I find so hard to understand. Find it so hard to understand why Savannah is not leading the charge to find her mother. She's got the money. She could be putting up those billboards all over the place with the Porch guy's picture on there. She could be making appearances. She could be doing press conferences. She could be doing a lot of stuff to drum up lots and lots of leads. I mean, she could have her like Thornbridge has done. They got their own website going with leads. You can call in leads to them and all that, or not call in, but write in leads to them. So why can't she do that? She can hire her own staff and everything else to do that. A whole staff of private investigators. You have $40 million, and you could put up, billboards all over the country, hand out flyers. One of the other things I said the local sheriff needs to do, they need to have on every deputy's clipboard that he carries that picture on every clipboard, and they need to be all instructed. All the uniformed deputy guys need to be instructed to show everybody they talk to, show that picture. Have you ever seen this guy? Do you know this guy? You ever seen this guy? That needs to be on all of them. They need to all be doing that. The sheriff can make it. The Tucson Police Department needs to be doing the same thing, but you're going to have to ask them and get their cooperation. All right, and then Glen from Thornbridge, he suggested good ideas the other day. Put the wraps on buses and stuff with that picture on it, and all them free buses they got running around downtown and all. Put those pictures on it. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can advertise in different places and all. If you want to go all out, go all out. And Savannah Guthrie has the money. She's not like the rest of us, not like me anyway. I don't have the money to fund that kind of program, but she does. And that's one of the disappointing parts about, yeah, that's right, Caroline. Caroline runs. She's telling people not to speak. Yeah, she told her old compadre there from NBC Today Show, what's her name? My mind just went blank. It's too late for me, guys. Ready to go to bed. Not to talk to anybody, not to mention it. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, I say that too much. Are you kidding me? It needs to be said as much as possible. And if Savannah wants to be mad at somebody, she needs to be mad at the sheriff. He's the one that's caused all this confusion, back and forth. Annie and Tommaso, the family, they're nobody's ruled out. Then one week is I've ruled everybody out. Everybody's ruled out. He's changed his mind. I don't know. I can't count it legitimately, but close to a half a dozen times on that subject. That's right, Mama. Exactly. I'd be shouting it from the rooftops. Here's another one of mine. I doubt A&T were even interviewed alone, probably sitting side by side. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of stuff I believe gone on. They haven't done any of this. And so if you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at the sheriff, not the streamers, not the YouTubers, not all those people. See if my wife's home, because I need to get the dogs out. I hear strange noises. Vicky, that might be right. How could that be? She said some things in that last seeing if somebody's sneaking up on me. She said some things in that last thing about, you've always tried to do the right thing. I didn't. I don't know. And there's always a way home. Who was she talking to? I mean, I guess that, maybe she was, I don't know anything about that case. I'll have to look that up. I'm gonna write it down just because you asked. Does anybody know about Elena Moore from Lexington? I'm ready to roll on that one. But here's the deal. I did another something since I started all this. You think people would be tired of this case, but they're not tired of it. They want more and more and more, is what it seems like. I was probably the second person on the internet on YouTube to do a segment on the 16 kids in the horrible conditions they were in a house of horrors. I did a thing on that. I did two things. It got no traction at all. Nobody was interested. I guess it was too rotten of a story. But that was an interesting thing, 16 kids in his house never let out and all that. Now, some of that might be exaggerated, but it was terrible, terrible, terrible conditions. And the whole story there is terrible too. This woman giving birth to about 19 kids and she's 35 years old. Yeah, exactly, mommy. Sounds like she's talking to somebody familiar. Now, did the behavioral analysis used to be called behavioral sciences, and they didn't like that. It's not a science. Behavioral analysis, uh, people advise her on that because here's one of the things. These are what hostage negotiators use all the time. You don't alienate the person you're trying to deal with. You try to get on their side and everything else. Hey, listen, those are interview techniques that we used for a long time. Contrary to what you've seen in movies, old movies, and everything else, that when they're going to do an interview, one guy's a good guy, bad guy, and all that kind of stuff, and one guy rakes the guy and beats on the table and all that kind of stuff. Well, that technique has probably gone out a long time ago. It's better to work with the person, make them feel comfortable and everything else. We used to do things like, what do you think your mama's going to think about this and all that kind of stuff. You tug at their heartstrings. Some of them do have a heart. Tin Man didn't have a heart. Yeah, isn't that something? That's why they need to put, those signs all over the place, and not a picture of Nancy. Nobody's going to see Nancy. She's with nature now. Not going to happen. Yeah, I know. Well, that's one of the theories out there, and the first one to bring that elimination theory up was Dr. Gary Bacarda. I can't pronounce his name either. And it sprung out from there. I saw people saying, that Nancy was participating in it. She, it was a whole thing about the family, and Nancy was going to be, Nancy was involved in it. So, that thing took off. And then you got a lot of these bad AI sites out there where the people just sit there and you don't see somebody like me. You see some talking head or you see no head and just pictures and rumbling off, and then some guy talking with a smooth voice in the background and all that, and they're just spreading nothing but lies. Anything that'll get what people want to hear going, rumor mill going, and that's what they got. That's what happens a lot of times. So yeah, he is smart. That guy, he is smart. I won't argue with that. No, I like him. Hey, have you seen he has a channel where he plays the piano. He is a good piano player. I listen to him quite often. I go to bed. Sometimes I'll turn him on. The only problem is he only plays one song 4 or 5 minutes at a time. I want those guys that go on for a long time. But anyway, he's a good piano player. Guy's a genius. There ain't no doubt about it. Well, okay, I hear that. That might be true. My wife is texting me something. Hey, thanks, Caroline Runs. New member. Thank you. Thank you so much. My wife is texting me. I think she's fixing to come home, and she's got some stuff. Oh my goodness, to unload from the car or something. I'm gonna have to go help her. My daughter must have took her shopping or something. No, it's an isolated case. I think my personal opinion is it has to be. No, I think it's a single case and it's related to Savannah Guthrie. I think she was the real target, just like the profiler earlier was saying. She's the target, and it's either to hurt her. Mostly, he's saying hurt her. Oh, uh, it's dangerous when she goes to the grocery store. Not really. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. I'm gonna have to go because she's rolling in now. She's rolling in here pretty soon here, and I'm gonna have to help her unload some stuff. And also, no telling what kind of trouble my daughter got her into. My daughter's name is Jen. Also, they like to go shopping. Usually, they go shopping at places that don't cost so much, though. At least that's good. All right, y'all. I'm gonna take off. Good night, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks so much for those who contributed and for the new members and all. And for I do have a membership page if you want to join up. I'm doing some new things. I'm doing a series. I'm gonna probably put one out tomorrow or the next day on the Rogers murder case again, and it's for members. And so anyway, that's the deal on that. That's gonna be quite a long series. I got no how long it's gonna go, but it's the inside scoop about what happened in that investigation, right from the horse's mouth, and not from some commentator telling you what happened. It's an interesting case too. Y'all take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. A lot of good people in here, good comments. Y'all are impressive. Good bunch of investigators in here. You take care. Sorry if I didn't get to everybody's comments and all. It's kind of hard keeping up with all this stuff, especially when your computer dumps on you like it did this tonight. So thanks a lot. See y'all next time around. God bless everybody. Bye.